Hello everyone, and thank you for coming to watch this video. I have a little story to tell you, a journey that I've been on, and how I got to the point of Beyond Hope, the movie. Back in '05, in August, here I was sitting in my office, and I wrote a couple of paragraphs on 3 different sheets of paper. And I read what I wrote, and I thought, this doesn't make sense. I thought it was kind of silly. So I put the couple of sheets of paper away, and I ignored it for a couple of weeks. And one day I decided to show it to one of my mentors at the time, and I showed it to her. She goes, "Where did you get this?" And I said, "I wrote them." And I asked her why. She said, "Because this is freedom." And my wife at the time told me, said, "You know what, Al, you got to write a book." And I looked at her, I got to write a book? I don't even know the first thing how to write a book. My grammar isn't that great, my English isn't that great, and you want me to write a book? She says, "You have to write a book." I was blessed to have a mastermind group soon after, because what I did is I presented these paragraphs to certain people, and a few of them believed enough in the messages that was being delivered that this master group was formed. And by the day after Thanksgiving, just a few months later, in November of '05, the ebook version came out, and it sold. It just started selling. In December of '05, the audio version came out, and by one of the members of the mastermind group, and again, it started selling. And I thought, wow, this is pretty phenomenal. Eventually, I got a person to do the foreword for the book, and by May of '06, my first book was published. And I thought to myself, who would have thought, Al Diaz writing a book, and ended up selling worldwide. I'm not going to tell you that it sold millions, but it ended up selling worldwide. Because of this mastermind group, and we had a common thread of supporting humanity. And we started doing teleseminars, and we even did a live event together. And I was doing things I never would have dreamed of. Eventually, I wrote a second book, and that book sold really, really well. And actually, it's called Being the Titus Concept, and that book continues to sell. And the interesting part about that is that book started selling on its own. And perhaps because by then I started having an audience that was willing to listen or read about what I was writing about. And I said, well, this is great. And the point that I'm trying to make here is because somebody encouraged me, my wife, to write a book. And I took that initial step to write that first book. And then, like I said, my second book, Being the Titus Concept, came out. And after that, I self-published my third book called Confirmations, and I've also co-written or co-authored 3 other books. And so here, all these books are under my belt, all because I took the initial step. In 2010, I started to do a tour called The Miracle of Love, nationwide, across the U.S. And again, I just took the step. I decided to do it. And I will tell you that the first one I had, the first event that I had, didn't go so well. But what was encouraging was that the people that were there to see me, and they were there to see the other presenters also, but for the most part, the audience that did show up was there to see me. Again, I continued on. And by the end of 2010, November of 2010, as I was flying home from Florida, the Miracle of Love tour across the U.S. had become very, very successful. On the flight home, I decided, you know what? Let's go to Australia. And since I'm going to Australia, why not go to New Zealand? So in March and April of 2011, I did that. I went to 2 countries I'd never been before. I spoke to audiences that I've never done, or I never would have been able to speak with if it wasn't for taking the initiative to go to Australia and New Zealand. and it was great. I met great people. There was great audiences. And by the time I came home in mid-April of 2011, I had become an international speaker and a keynote speaker at that. So when I got home, I said, well, you know what? I think I'll create a little mini tour now. And sure enough, we scheduled stops across the U.S., in Canada, in the U.K., back to Australia, back to New Zealand, and also to South Korea. And that ended up being happening in August to November of 2011. And again, great audiences, great co-presenters in every location and every event. And what that helped me to do, for me personally, it opened my eyes to possibilities, to new situations, new experiences. But it told me that as long as you keep moving forward and take the initiative, that somehow, some way, you'll always be supported. Now I'm going to be honest with you. My family thought I was crazy what I was doing. I quit paying my bills because I had to support this tour. And I took what a lot of people would say is a gamble or a risk. But it all worked out. And I'm not going to go into details right now, but trust me, it all worked out even better than I could have ever imagined. Not only for the tour, but back at home. Things just worked out for me. And in 2012, I decided to submit a short film to the Ilumine Film Festival in Bangkok because I was invited to go speak there. And the film had to be 9 minutes or less, and we ended up submitting a 4.5-minute film. And it didn't win any awards. The producer of the event, the promoter or the founder of the event said, you know what, Al, we'll put your video on all our media outlets. So it got an honorable mention, per se. And I thought to myself, okay, well, I achieved what I wanted to do, and that's great. Eventually, people start coming up to me and telling me, hey, Al, so what's next? What are you going to do next? You just can't stop here. And I said, you know what? I'm an author and a speaker. That's what I do. I like connecting with people. I like going, especially one-on-ones. I like to see the shift in people's eyes and see their energy be uplifted. But people kept coming at me and said, Al, no, you can't just stop here. You got to do something. And I kind of resisted. I'll be honest. I resisted a little bit. But in September, or actually late August of 2012, I went to my team at the time and I said, what would it take? What would it take to create? What's the next step? And they said, oh, anywhere from a 10 to 40-minute film is a short film. And we all agreed to do a 30-minute film. By the time I went back on my tour in September of 2012, we already attracted to us an amazing award-winning screenwriter by the name of Lawrence Hughes Stern. And he created a masterpiece, how I feel about it, because the storyline's phenomenal. And after that, we brought we attracted an all-star cast, and then we started filming in early November, and by November 18th, we were done filming. So from September to November 18th, we did everything in 2012. And again, it's taking that first step. It's going for it. That somehow, some way, things always work out. And I remember that one of my members of my production support staff kept saying, Al, you know, what's the message about the movie? And I said it's about trust beyond hope and know beyond faith. And that's what the message of the movie delivers. And that's what I'm telling you right now, this storyline, this is what I just finished telling you about what's happened to me since August of 2005 until now, April of 2013, is we are always supported, and it indicates that in the film. It's kind of funny. And that's where I'm at. I'm not going to tell you that it's been easy, but I will tell you that we are supported. And that's why I keep moving forward in life. And that's what I keep sharing it with all of humanity as often and as much as I can. That we are always supported. And somehow, some way, things always work out. Somehow, some way. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching this video. We always have to take a step forward. Otherwise, we'll never know. Thank you.